Halloween is a perfect example of a horror franchise that had an excellent start but was then bogged down by underwhelming and excessive sequels. Halloween 1978 had authentic performances, a terrifying and unstoppable villain, genuine and smart scares, an amazing opening, and one of the best clashes between a horror movie hero and villain ever. Its pacing may feel awkward and unbalanced on Halloween night, but the movie as a whole gets the job done. Unfortunately, the cash grab sequels have smeared the franchise name horribly. Which leads us to the new Halloween, which is of course a cash grab, but as I saw it, was an actual attempt to rekindle the quality the series was known for. And luckily, Halloween 2018 is excellent. As mentioned, my biggest gripe with the 1978 original is the unbalanced pacing. It spends way too much time building up Michael and his attacks, and spends too little time on everything after his initial slaughter. It feels unbalanced for sure, but luckily this film's pacing is silky smooth. I will admit that everything pre-opening credits is dragged out for far too long, and the time spent with the journalist feels monotonous, but besides that, the film nails its pacing. The only other problem I could see with the film would be its similarity to the 1978 original. And yes, it certainly detracts from the experience, but there are enough new and unexpected situations here that really allow the film to stand on its own. The film primarily focuses on Jamie Lee Curtis's character and her obsession with killing Mike Myers. It's an interesting and creative take on how a hero in a horror film would react to a traumatic experience, and it's all helped by Curtis's convincing performance. She's a badass through and through, and it's awesome to see a female lead that's so powerful without the fact that she is powerful getting shoved down your throat. She feels like an Ellen Ripley or a Sarah Connor, and is an excellent protagonist. Michael is just as great in the antagonist role, and is even better in this film than he was in his debut. Back then, he was certainly scary, but just sort of an unstoppable force. In this film, Michael retains that aspect and his supernatural abilities, but he feels more calculated, sadistic, and brutal. He feels renovated for a new era, and despite the fact that he's constantly shown, he never becomes less scary. There isn't an obsessive amount of time building him up. He's given some time before he begins to kill, but then we actually see his capabilities. It's horrifying seeing what he could do, and I love that we see so much time dedicated to his murders and how cruel he really is. These two characters and their relation to each other bring up an excellent dynamic, as they both want nothing more than to kill each other and become the ultimate predator. The film plays upon this dynamic a lot, and even goes as far to suggest that Michael is perhaps afraid of Curtis's character. I love that the film goes that far, because it's so rare that we get to see the inner psyche of a horror movie villain. And things like that just make Halloween 2018 very smart as a sequel. It uses elements from the original to actually progress the storytelling, and the callbacks to the 1978 original feel impactful instead of intrusive. Speaking of things borrowed from the 1978 original, we have the incredible score that creates an immersive and uncomfortable atmosphere for the viewer. Not to mention the score has an essential job in revving up the tension, which is actually the most important part of the film. It's hard to say that Halloween 2018 is scary. Sure, some of Michael's murders had me shrivel back up in my seat, but it's the tension produced in the film that makes it so engaging. The film constantly plays with the predator and prey aspect, but no matter which role the hero and the villain were in, I always felt my heart rate increasing. And I'd stand to argue that the final showdown between the hero and the villain here is even better than the 1978 original, and is probably in my top 3 favorite ever showdowns between a horror movie hero and villain. The final set piece is long, slow, memorable, and has multiple power shifts to keep it all fresh. Safe to say, it's one of my favorite moments to come out of film this year. The other aspects of Halloween, in my opinion, are just as strong. I think the Doctor is just as scary as Michael, and really even more intriguing. I love the psychological aspect he brings to the table, and how multiple characters want Michael alive so they can not only study him, but to see what made him the way he is. I think it's so cool, because in today's day and age, there'd almost certainly be someone willing to defend Michael, to get an alternate perspective. But sometimes things are just that simple, and people are just evil, and I love that the film recognizes that. I think the mom is great and shows the effects of how serious the trauma was. The script is impressively funny, and the story still maintains the same old weed, sex, and babysitting from the original. They're not only fun callbacks, but a realistic view at teenage life. It felt like a current high school environment, filled with your typical douchebags and potheads. I think the rest of the supporting cast is awesome and all serve a purpose, whether that be for comic relief or just another body that Michael kills. And in particular, the granddaughter is a real standout. She doesn't just feel like a screaming victim. She feels like a person legitimately scarred, not only by Michael, but just by the damaging environment she's placed in. The fact that she had depth to her really revealed to me just how passionate these filmmakers were. They actually wanted to make a genuinely good sequel to the 1978 original. And they succeeded. Halloween 2018 is the most pleasant surprise to come out of film this year. The characters are deep, the script is surprisingly memorable and funny. I think that there are plenty of standout moments, it's wonderfully tense, and it's all wrapped up with a 10 out of 10 final fight. In my opinion, Halloween 2018 is exactly what a horror movie should be. The ending points to a natural evolution of the franchise, and I can't wait to see what happens next. I'm going to give Halloween 2018 a 9 out of 10. Thank you guys so much for watching, and see you all next time.